Hey everyone, it's the Kun-Lai Campfire, and tonight we've got a very hot and spicy romantic podcast because love is in the air tonight.
And with that, how's it going, everybody? My name is Box, and welcome back to the Kun-Lai Campfire. Today we're going to talk about the new short story by Madeline Rocks called A Moment in Verse. So, Bannerama, take it away.
As I only read it once and it was today, I've got a pretty good idea of what it was. It follows up after the epilogue of Battle for Azeroth, where all of the leaders of the Horde, and also the Alliance, but in this case, the Horde is the only one that matters, like usual. In the embassy area, you had Thrall talking to Gazlo, Bane talking to Rokon, but in this particular important part, it was Lorthamar and Thalristra who talked. And it was all about how Thalristra wants Lorthamar to visit her in Suramar. And apparently she's been trying to get him to do this for a very long time now, and Romoth and Haldoran, who are basically Lorthamar's buddies, a part of the, big Blood Elf Council and leadership there, they managed to tell her, you're fine, we got this, we can handle everything while Lorthamar's gone. And Lorthamar was taken aback by this, and he was like, well, I've got a lot of duties going on, I'm very busy, I don't know if I can do this. And Thalristra's basically like, no, you're good, your buddies go back home, got it. And, basically he admits and agrees to coming along for her sake, and
the burden of leadership.
Yeah, it really blossomed into, already people were shipping them pretty hard. I'd say all the way back at the end of Legion, for crying out loud. I think people were shipping them for quite some time, and, we had little pockets of moments, especially during BFA, where they showed romantic interest in one another, especially Thalristra. It must have been because they were in that bubble for so long, because holy crap, those guys were thirsty. But in this short story, it's basically Lorthamar finally arrives in Suramar. I think this is his first time visiting the city. I'm pretty sure it is. I could be wrong about that.
I believe it is. It is.
Yeah, I think it is his first time ever seeing the city. He said, I don't want to travel there by portal. I want to see it how it's supposed to be. I want to go by ship. I want to go by sea. So he goes in by sea. He arrives. Thalristra meets up with him. She doesn't send some sort of escort to grab him. She goes there herself. She goes there herself, showing how important Lorthamar is. It's pretty important that he actually comes there, because even the Suramar people are like, this is a very important guest. He's the leader of the Blood Elves. He's the leader of the guys who are basically like, hey, come join the Horde. Come join us. And Suramar is a very beautiful city in general, so it's awesome that he finally gets to go there and see it for himself. But apparently, I didn't know this. I personally did not know this. And then again, Lorthamar is not like my biggest character I'm the fan of, so I don't know every single thing about him, but apparently he's a poet. And he has his own little...
I really liked that, actually.
Yeah, he's a poet, and I didn't know it. And he has his own little journal, he has his own little thing where he, I think, writes down his little poem ideas, and in his poem, at their, little gathering of poem, a lot of poetic people show up, and they say their own poems. Thalristra says her after Lorthamar, but Lorthamar's is all about the Adder, and it's all about Kael'thas, which is very in time with everything, with, Kael'thas coming back in Shadowlands. We all know this. He's coming back in Shadowlands, he plays an important part in Ravendreth, and a lot of us are hoping that he'll get a reunion with Lorthamar, and they can exchange some words, because right now, Lorthamar hates Kael'thas. Lorthamar does not like Kael'thas. Kael'thas was a traitor. Kael'thas ruined their people and drove them away from the Alliance and made them join the Horde, essentially.
So I wonder, in the afterlife, right, you just really sparked something with me. If Kael'thas' redemption will be complete when he finds redemption among somebody like Lorthamar, who really hates him. That is something that would be really, really cool, and I wonder if that's what this is hinting at. This totally sets up that storyline next expansion. And I know a lot of Blood Elf fans are really excited to see Kael'thas again in Shadowlands, but again, little setups like this for me kind of go a long way. But yeah, no, I think that's kind of the setup for that storyline. I feel like Kael'thas will ultimately find redemption. In the eyes of Lor'themar, it would also be the eyes of his people, too, in the afterlife.
I would love it if the Sindori people find a new founding respect in Kael'thas again, through Ravendreth, through Shadowlands. I would, it's very interesting when you think about, like, all the characters that have, like, really ruined their people, who used to be people that they really liked. Sylvanas Windrunner is a character who Lor'themar was second to. Lor'themar was the second Ranger General, basically, to Sylvanas. He is what Haldoran is to him right now with Sylvanas. He really looked up to Sylvanas. She was his mentor, she was his friend, she was a hero, and she died saving their people, defending Silvermoon City, and ultimately, she became a monster. She became, we all know what she does in BFA. We all know. And Lor'themar, once again, has to live with another corrupt leader of their people gone bad, gone wrong. And, you can definitely see that in his character. I think the poem could also be about Sylvanas. Obviously, it was about Kael'thas. Thalrissra picked that up really quickly. But moving past the, Sylvanas stuff, I don't want to talk about her too much here. This is about...
Before you get off of her, I actually, when I first started reading the poem, I almost thought it was about her for a second. When I first read it, as silly as that is, I just
before the joke is missed, how dare you say I get off to Sylvanas?
Oh god,
that's confirmed. That is bamboozle at best, Box. But yeah, let's get away from Sylvanas. But with Thalrissra and Lor'themar, again, to continue on with the poem thing, Thalrissra has a poem, and I don't remember it all by heart. I really don't. But later, it's about Lor'themar. It's about I just read it today, so like my memory. I
actually have the poem right here. I'll read it for everybody.
Oh, good.
The whole night sees us, wretched, beautiful, beneath those untold, unblinking eyes. We dance, we drink, we give body to the watchful heavens, becoming hands and feet, becoming. Here I am, take my fingers to grasp the goblet, take my lips to breathe your first air, take my feet and learn to twirl and fall, tumble and I shall catch you, laugh and I shall laugh with you, until all of our shining eyes are stars. And we see each other, one cosmos, one heart.
Okay, so basically it's a proposal. That's the way I see it. It's basically Thalrissra going out of her way to tell Lor'themar how she feels about him. And obviously me being I'm not very keen with romance, it went over my head too, as I'm sure it went over Lor'themar's head. But, he later learns what her poem was about. She gets actually pretty upset in the story that he didn't understand hers immediately, but she understood his immediately. And it all came down to her being upset that Lor'themar simply cannot, work around with, being a leader, but also setting aside, personal feelings, personal, what you do when you're not leading, basically. Lor'themar apparently does a very bad job of managing both. He can only ever manage one, and he does a very bad, basically Thalrissra calls him out here, like, you've gotta...
all work.
You've gotta put aside, you can't just, make an excuse that, I've gotta do my duty to my people, I've gotta lead. Thalrissra, she does a really good job of doing both. She can have her personal feelings, her personal stuff that she likes doing, and lead her people. She can do both, even though she's more new at it than Lor'themar is, in all honesty, when you think about it. Lor'themar has been leading the Blood Elves ever since Kael'thas went to Outlands, and that was so many years ago now. I'm guessing in the lore it's been at least 10 years, I imagine. Somewhere around there, while Thalrissra has only been really the leader of her entire society and people for about a year or two. So, but she's doing a really good job of managing. And, Lor'themar gets called out here And he's like, all right, you know, I messed up. I'm sorry that I upset you. Because she basically says, burn all my poems. Burn them all. Apparently they failed. You know, they were a failure. I couldn't get to you. And Lorthamar's like, no, don't do that. Don't do that. And, she, you know, they basically figure things out. And again, I just read the story today. I'm not going to memorize it the best. But, they figure things out. You know, they admit their feelings to one another. One of the things that gets brought up just before they kiss. Yes, they kiss. Spoiler, by the way. Obviously, these going to have spoilers in it. We didn't even say that at the beginning.
That's the big thing at the end, too.
Yeah, they kiss. They kiss.
I love that.
And they probably do they probably do the deed that is not allowed to be said in a T for Team game. But, you know, that's how babies are born. So, you know, maybe someday we'll see Lorthamar be a dad.
I was gonna say, what would a Nightborn Blood Elf baby look like? Oh my god, it's a Void Elf! No, just kidding.
I'm sure it would look like, I'd imagine like a Nightborn with green eyes, maybe? Or like a Night Elf with a purple hue? I don't know.
That would be really badass,
or like
actually.
A Blood Elf with like those weird, like, it's kind of like a glass tattoo almost, like runes. Like what all Nightborn typically have. I don't know. But, one of the things that I know is a romance story, and I'm terrible at doing this, but, you know, I tweeted about it. I was like, you know, I like that they're in love. I love that they're in love. They're honestly I love them together, as I'm a big fan of Lorthamar and Thalristra, but what was up with that huge emergency in Orgrimmar?
So, that's something I really wanted to get to, because I messaged you about it right after I read it, and I think that, one, it directly ties into the Shadows Rising novel that's coming out soon, but what I think is it's about the emergency of Sylvanas trying to kill Bwonsamdi. Either that or the Zandalari assassins trying to assassinate Talanji in the book.
Yeah, that would be a nice tie-in to Shadows Rising. If it's not that, and I imagine it is, it feels like it is, because Shadows Rising feels like, you know, it takes place not immediately after Battle for Azeroth has concluded, but, you know, like several weeks afterwards. This short story feels like it takes place maybe a week or a couple of days after N'Zoth is slain, because, you know, the whole, you know, Lorthamar is talking to Thalristra about visiting Suramar, and I forget how long they said that it took them to figure this out. It sounded like it took a couple of weeks, as far as I remember. Maybe it took longer, maybe it took less, but it sounds like this short story does not take as long as Shadows Rising does. Shadows Rising feels like it's taking place a couple of months afterwards.
Do you know what's really sad about this too, Skull? Just from thinking about this, I don't know why, but like I just thought about this short story, and then like basically Lorthamar getting called back to work because of what's going on in Orgrimmar, even though obviously he doesn't quite do that. But
he basically says no, like by the sun will get out of here.
He says no at the end, which is good. Yeah. The guy needs a break, but it's kind of sad when you think about Sylvanas' line saying nothing lasts, and then like just shit exploding like that because of her. You know what I mean?
And once again, she rears her face into our conversation. We can't escape her, no matter what. No matter how many times I want us to not talk about her in these podcasts, she always comes up.
I have a big picture of Nathanos in my pictures file, too, right now that I'm staring at.
Gosh darn it, Box. But, we've got... I really liked this story because it brings me back to when they did these. They did them a lot in Cataclysm and Mists of Pandaria, and for some reason they didn't follow this up in expansions afterwards. They did not do many short stories, and they did this. They did this between Lorthamar and Thalristra, and I would really love it if they continue doing this with, 1, Alliance characters, and 2, Horde characters. One I would really like is a short story on the appointment of Rokhan becoming the Chieftain of the Darkspears. I want a ceremony like, you know, like him being, you know, made the chieftain of the Darkspears. I want a gathering of sorts at the Echo Isles, between Horde leaders and Troll leaders. I want Talanji to be there as a witness, because, you know, Rokon was there for Talanji's encrownment as the new leader of the Zandalari. I would love it if they did the same for Rokon. I ship Rokon. Since we're on the topic of romance,
Rokon and Talanji.
Rokon and Talanji all the way. I don't get why people want to ship Zakan and Talanji. I get Shadows Rising might do that, and I don't want it at all.
No.
I think it's because Rokon might be old. This is the main reason why. I have no idea how old Rokon is, because in Warcraft 3 they depicted him as an old man, and then Warcraft 3 Reforged they actually hid what he's supposed to look like.
Imagine that Rokon scene in the style of like the Burdens of Shao-Hao or Harbinger's Illidan.
Damn.
That would be so badass, dude. Holy
I doubt
crap.
they would do that, but at the same time, I really want them to do a new model for Rokon, too. Like, the guy is currently just in generic armor. So is Gazlo. Gazlo and Rokon need new models in general. So do several other characters in the lore, but, you know, I'm happy that they're doing these again. I hope they do them some more. You know, one of my favorite things in Legion was the comics, but also the audio stories.
Oh my gosh, they were so good, especially the Khadgar and Gul'dan one.
Yeah, they had Maiev appear as a cameo. They had also the Thousand Year War, where they first introduced Locust Walker. Locust Walker is a very interesting character who I hope they do more of. But it has been, this past week has been really a victory for people who really like Blood Elves, and I'm really happy. You know, you got the High Elves coming to the Alliance, the High Elves coming to the Horde. I mean, some people, you know, say not all of them are High Elves, which is fine. Some of them are still Sin'dorei, they just have blue eyes now. But, you know, just, it's nice that we have this going on. I just love stories that explore more of the world that is in the World of Warcraft. It doesn't always need to be like, there's a big enemy that we need to fight, these two are fighting side by side. It's nice to have some room to breathe before we, you know, unpack and go into what is basically the world of dead, the hell, the heaven, the purgatory, the who know what's it's, you know, like, I just love the fact that we get these stories that explore these characters doing things, and I just really hope we get more of it. I'm really worried about Shadowlands because I'm worried that they're not going to focus on living characters. I'm worried that they're just going to focus on the characters of the dead. I really don't care about the Covenant leaders, per instance. I care about the characters that are in these realms, like Draka, Kalthos, Lady Vosh.
The best way to make the dead interesting in Shadowlands is to have them interact with the living. That is the only way that the storyline can work and make it feel like something that matters. I mean,
yeah.
One thing that you were saying, to get back on the short story a little bit, there's so many. It feels good to not have something that has to feel like this huge, like, grand thing. It one fleshes out the characters better. This wouldn't be a video on my channel if I didn't say this, but two great characters. I mean, one character I would love to see get a short story would be Thrall. I know we could talk about that for hours. Thrall, and maybe how he's still dealing with remorse about Garrosh and such. But then that could lead to a storyline in Shadowlands. Maybe that's something Blizzard has planned. I'm not really sure. I know.
Thrall is just one of those characters that could work so well in the Shadowlands because he has so many friends and family that are dead. And you could have so many interactions between him and Thrall. Well, yeah, Thrall and anyone, really. Garrosh, Karen, Vol'jin, so on and so forth, especially Draka. But yeah, go on.
And the thing about it, though, I really am, for one, really glad they made this ship canon, because I really liked it. I just want the idea of the Sin'dorei and the Shal'dorei together is badass. But, like, real talk, this would be a great way to use characters like G and Asa that haven't really done anything in the game.
Oh my god.
The fallout of the faction war. I mean, I've said that in every video, but, like, it's a great way to flesh out minor characters without having to give them a huge role, even if it's just a small bit of fan service here and there like this. I think this made a lot of players really happy, and it was just a small, sweet story with a lot of like little undertones too. I mean, the burden of leadership, right? Lorthamar is always a guy who I feel like never really wanted to be leader. It's kind of
it's like the Horde in general.
It is.
None of them want to be leaders, really. It's always the ones who like being leaders are the ones who go corrupt. It's always that case, really, I've noticed.
The little details in it, though, like him being a poet and stuff, like stuff like that can really make the leaders seem a lot cooler, especially when they do make those in-game appearances. That's how you get those moments when, like, a character like him does something that make you cheer after they've just been fleshed out like that. So this is so great, and it's good to see Blizzard doing short stories again. I think Madeline Rocks did a great job here, and
she did I really like her writing style.
It's
I
really
really
good.
like how she wrote these characters that makes them feel more alive. You know, when you look at the racial leaders, I kind of see them as the faces of these races and our, you know, what characters we really like, because when we make a character in World of Warcraft, we tend to base them on something or someone. Like, I play an orc because of Thrall and Sarfang and Rexxar. Those are the characters that made me want to play an orc. I'm sure for the cases of Nightborne and Blood Elves, they play because of Thalrisra and Lorthamar. And, you know, you have a lot of people in the roleplay community who are happy about this. You know, I really like it when you have, you know, it's not a Blood Elf and a Blood Elf. It's a Blood Elf and a Nightborne. You know, you could do this with so many other characters, like Thrall and Agra, for instance. Thrall and Agra, yes, they're both orcs, but one of them is a Mag'har orc, which allowed them to have a kid who has brown skin rather than green skin. And it applies that interest, and it applies that, I just really like it when you have, you know, typically two characters who, you know, yeah, they're both leaders, but they have their own interests, they have their own things that they like. And in the case of, you know, Lorthamar and Thalrisra, yeah, they're both leaders, and they have their own things going on, but they also like each other, and it shows in this story. They are in love, they are dating, they are doing things that we're not probably allowed to say on this podcast, but yeah, and I just really like that, you know, that fleshes them out some more, and I don't know if we'll see them in Shadowlands. I'm not against it, I'm not also for it, because I kind of want them to shine the spotlight on other characters too. But, you know, Lorthamar and Thalrisra are characters who, you know, pop in and pop out a lot, especially Lorthamar, you know. It took them till Mists of Pandaria to make him interesting. I didn't even care about him till Mists.
You actually just took the words right out of my mouth. Like, I'll be honest, I couldn't have given a shit about Lorthamar before Mists of Pandaria, but his storyline in the Isle of Thunder actually made me really like him, and then they've just continued making him like an awesome character since, and this even further cements that for me. Same with Thalissa. I'm so glad she stuck around after Legion. Like, one of my biggest fears during Legion was the Nightborne and a lot of the other races would have been forgotten about.
Yeah.
I've said it in other podcasts and other videos, but a great thing for me is when things in an expansion carry over to the next one and they feel like they matter. Which is exactly what we got here, which is freaking great.
I really just want them to do more stories with more characters. I was gonna bring this up earlier, but when we were talking about Thrall, it just came to me. They could focus on the weird and awkward relationship between Thrall and Gaiara, or Gaiara. Her name is weird. But you know, they call each other Goel, and Thrall refers to her as Gaiara, so they clearly have talked. They've clearly interacted to some capacity, and I would love it. I would simply love it if they had the two do something. But yeah, another thing that I really was kind of hoping that they kind of tease, but not do too much here. But they did mention that the Horde is now a council of leaders. It's not a war chief. And I love that. I still love that, and I want them to do more with it. I would love it. I keep picturing this in my head, but like when an expansion starts, they have you, the player character, enter into Grommash Hold, and like you have the councilmen, all the council leaders of the Horde, like around a chair, not around a chair, but around a table, and they're all sitting in chairs and they're all talking, kind of like the epilogue in Legion, where they're all together and having a feast. I want more of that, but not them all just having their own individual talks. I want them all talking at once about a problem or about a subject, and I know that has nothing really to do with the story, but at the same time they kind of mention it, because Lorthamar is a council member. Enough. And so is Dalristra. They're both council members, and they're over here doing the do. So, this story was really great. And I want more stories where we have characters just interacting like this. You know, Rexar, Talanji. I know Talanji's showing up in Shadow Rising, so maybe not her. But just characters, you know, leaders of the Alliance and the Horde. Or just, you know, champions and, you know, even minor characters. You know, they did a really good job of bringing this up and, you know, slamming our faces with this out of nowhere. And it was nice.
This is random, but this makes me weirdly excited for storyline that we could get from Illyria and Terralion in Shadows Rising.
Oh yeah, I already threw my hat to the wind about, you know, what I think is going to go on with them a while ago in our podcast, but
you have a whole video about the book that was really good too.
Yeah, whenever the book comes out, you know, we're going to talk about it. I'm going to talk about it. Mm-hmm. But I think this is going to be, I think this short story, and I hope they do more. I really do. But I think that this short story in general is kind of setting up what's going to happen in Shadow Rising, maybe. I don't know to what extent or to what degree, you know. I'd imagine that Talanji would be like frowning at the idea of, oh, the reason why Lorthamar and Dalristra weren't there when she was almost assassinated was because they were on a date. That's gonna
have to know about that.
Well, that's gonna put some more salt to the wound if it ever happens. But yeah,
it'll certainly be interesting.
Oh yeah, but I don't know if I have anything else more to say about this. Again, I think this is going to be a very short podcast, because it's kind of just us rambling on about what happened and what we liked about it, and, you know, it's nice that they did this.
I'm going to echo Skull's words a little bit. I think it's nice that we got a short story. I hope in the future we continue to get more stories like this, but this one was very well done. You don't even have to pay for it or anything, so just go on the World of Warcraft website, check it out if you're a fan of the lore. Even if you heard us talk about it, it's a very good read. It fleshes out the characters of Lorthamar and Thalastra very well, and I'm now very excited to see a Nightborn Blood Elf hybrid, so it's gonna be cool. But Skull, thanks for joining me again today on this podcast. This was a fun one. And everybody, everybody, I hope you guys are all doing well. You know, I just want to thank you guys for all the continued support of the channel. You know, we're just looking forward to doing some more stuff soon. Hopefully my next machinima is done kind of soon, but I'll see you guys next time.
Stay thirsty.